All right. Hello and welcome, everyone, to SPARC Peer-to-Peer Chats. I'm Jason Manitowabi, the Rezo SPARC Network Northern Outreach Coordinator. I'm an Indigenous man with short hair. I'm wearing a navy blue Pearl Jam ball cap from a Boston Fenway Park show. I didn't go, one of my friends brought it back for me. Lucky. And have a short beard and mustache, and I'm starting to show some grays. My pronouns are he, him, his. Today, I am really excited to chat with Dr. Terri-Lynn Brennan. Terri-Lynn is the Executive Director for LodgePole Arts. Terry is based in Wolfe Island, Ontario, where I had a chance to visit for a National Indigenous Presenters Gathering in the fall of last year. Hello, Terri-Lynn. How are you doing? I'll just go ahead and ask, well, how's your day so far? Hmm.
Sego, any bonjour, Jason. Yeah, things are happening. It's good to be down here on the island and looking forward to the first of April tomorrow. So thank you for inviting me to this chat.
It's very, very good to have you. So we'll just get right into it. So, Lodgepole Arts, tell us a little about Lodgepole Arts, specifically how it began and some of the work that you do.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Lodgepole Arts Alliance, we are a charitable not-for-profit. We started visioning back in 2019. A core group of us, national colleagues and friends, part of the arts sector. And the evolution kind of started out of what was happening between myself and another co-founder, JP Longboat, and a project we were doing with Arts Build Ontario back at that time in looking at Indigenous creative spaces. And it ended up being a 5-year research project in which we talked to 182 Indigenous arts voices, some very veteran and well-known Indigenous artists, and some just burgeoning, coming straight out of school or still in school, and looking what their future can entail and how to really start to get traction in making a career of being an Indigenous artist. The one thing that came out of that research that was overwhelming was the ask for an Indigenous creative space, one that was sovereign, self-determined, owned, operated, and programmed by Indigenous peoples. Believe it or not, that does not exist. There are spaces on the landscape, both in the public realm as well as on reserved territory realms. But the artists and arts galleries and performance spaces, they are either they are all colonially built buildings, and that have been occupied. And so at the root, and if you will, the bricks and mortar of those spaces, it's not a spirit of what it is to be an Indigenous artist. And so there is a call to create our own spaces, build our own spaces from the ground up. And that is slowly happening. And I'm happy to say. But with our initiative, we are looking to create and build something like I describe it to treaty partners, non-Indigenous folks. It'll be like the Banff Center, an Indigenous Banff Center, but on a much lower scale. So it would be kind of a return to village life where we have a building that is a repository for our ancestors and artifacts. And when I say ancestors, I don't mean human. Those spirits are going to, I hope, straight back into the afterlife and below us. But also a dance studio and a sculpture studio and a gallery space and a ceremonial space. All kinds of artistic endeavors and genres will be highlighted within one kind of locale. But the vision is to not just build one locale. The vision is to create a network of spaces across the country. And so we are pursuing that as kind of our long-term goal. While we exist, however, we operate programmatically. We operate as an art service organization, and so we are engaging with different partners to offer Indigenous artists opportunities for promotion and celebration. We partnered with the Kingston Writers Fest last year and the year before, helping to support Alicia Elliott and Angela Starrett in 2023, and then last year Tanya Talaga and David A. Robertson to come to Kingston and be part of the Kingston Writers Fest. We've supported local musicians and local filmmakers in promoting their creatives at the Hotel Wolf Island, which is where we base most of our activities and events out of. Yeah, our capstone was the inaugural National Indigenous Arts Gathering, the Art of Visiting, last year, of which we had great success and had representation of Indigenous presenters and artists from Newfoundland, from New Brunswick, from Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and all over Ontario to great success. And it was a wonderful time that people enjoyed and are calling for again. So we have begun to prepare and are ramping up with the creation of this year's Art of Visiting, again in October, based here on Wolf Island, with the opportunities to expand far and wide. And we've already got a few heavy hitter names that have said they're going to participate in Richard Van Camp and Sheila Rogers. And so it's a special kind of event that we're growing and looking forward to exploring over the next several years. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thanks. Yeah. So definitely when you speak about like how far you've gone in the past probably 10 years, I could attest to that. I've met up with you and I'm just starting to. I'm pretty young in the game still, but I'm always been in the arts, and I've met you at several gatherings um, representing different organizations, and I could see the work that you've been, plugging away at, and it's very much needed. I've been applying for applications like a lot of us do, and applications are up 400%. So there are a lot of people really picking this up, and well done. I think it takes a lot of that foundation work. So that saying, as long as I've known you always had this professional, strong work ethic and a love for the arts and administration. And there isn't always a script or a manual on building events such as the arts. I often have to find my own training opportunities for the places I work for and try to, convince them that these are important. And so I do a lot of that. So that saying, how do you effectively design uh, programs and the presenter gathering in specific? So tell us about some of the things you did to make that happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you and I have crossed paths a few times up in your neck of the world, which is a beautiful part of the world. And and it's been a long road for me. I'm a little bit older than you, and so when I was coming through schooling, early schooling, and on through, Indigenous artistic administrators and cultural promoters really didn't exist, and equity work didn't really exist, and so the type of career path that I've followed is very um, I think typical for many Indigenous folks that I know, but not necessarily the standard, in that I've kind of done the gambit from from education and anthropology and archaeology. I still hold my license in archaeology through international teaching and equity design work to now national consulting, planning, and yeah, it's just kind of crazy. So I guess in many ways, the skill set that I've honed over the years and the fact that I am older has given me a confidence at this stage to not really take no for an answer, and or to put up with folks who might challenge, as you say, the relevancy of building Indigenous organizations and Indigenous credibility, if you will, and legitimacy in being on the playing field with other organizations and in this, particular sector arts organizations. And so the other factor of my career is that I've been a very good networker over my years. I've engaged with a lot of people, and thank heaven, fingers crossed, I haven't burned too many bridges over the years internationally or nationally. And so I'm very happy that, of the colleagues and the partnerships and the friendships I've made, I have a very good connection base to reach out and ask people to support and help. And I've had really good, feedback on that. And so when it came to building LodgePole and then creating this presenters gathering, it started as a conversation that I was at in Halifax at the Indigenous Performing Arts Alliance. It was biannual intertribal that I was helping to facilitate a few years ago. And it happened to back onto an event that the Atlantic Presenters Association was holding in regards to their national conference. And it was, their regional conference, and it was an Indigenous presenters conference. And I'd never even heard of the concept. And so, in speaking with the director at the Atlantic Presenters Association, APA, we kind of had this conversation of, wow, this is a great idea. Why is this not happening across the rest of the country? And that was kind of the big thing. Why is an Indigenous organization not holding this? Because APA is a treaty partner led organization. And that's what kind of sparked the idea for LodgePole to maybe hold it as a national event, bring it to Ontario. Not that, we're that much closer to the rest of the world, but we are kind of in a central location, especially where we are here in Eastern Ontario. We're not too far from Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, hubs for folks to get to us. And then it just became this programming kind of event. I've planned a lot of events over my lifetime and programmed a lot of big things internationally and nationally. And so it really kind of came down to working away at thinking about, as a presenter and as an Indigenous arts sector creative, what would I like to see at these things? What have I heard at other presenting events and gatherings that would make one that is done from an Indigenous lens and from an Indigenous spiritual connection more relevant for Indigenous artists and presenters? And so that's what guided me, and just started to kind of call on different friends and colleagues to help support it. We did not really have a budget for it. And that's always, as you say, about grant writing. I mean, you're catching me on a day where a major grant is due, operating grant is due tomorrow. And so I've been trying to pick away at making sure that that's ready today. Isn't that our lives? But it just came down to that. And then I was very grateful to have someone work with me who happens to be on this particular call, Danielle Marshall, came in to basically keep me grounded and sane while we cracked away at putting together a 4-day event last year. And bringing in folks from all over the country, putting together a schedule that involved not only musicians, but filmmakers and, a market, an Indigenous crafters market. We had Indigenous chefs come in and also make, a modern fusion Indigenous treaty partner meal. And, it was just all really lovely. And then workshops. And the key was to be on the land. And so we did many things on the land throughout those 4 days, including ceremony, opening, closing, workshops, and changed it up a bit. The hotel Wolf Island has been an amazing partner for us, and the ambiance and the spirit there is a really good one and a comfortable one. So I think it was just the eminence of those who attended. We go by who's going to be there, who's meant to be there will be there. And it just really came together in a good way. The key is when you have such a big success like we did last year, is to make sure that the follow-up year not only, reaches the same kind of level of success, but maybe a little bit more. And that's the difficult thing this year. As more people have found out about it, we certainly don't want it to become a huge event, but we want it to be an established quality event. And so that's what we're aiming to do, and to continue to keep it grounded in land-based connections and spirit. Yeah.
That's amazing. Really great to hear. And I must say, when I attended, and I told a lot of people that you were working on providing childcare, I was able to bring my kids, and it's just not something that people were like. They're like, "Are you serious? Is that a thing?" I'm like, "I hope so," because a lot of us we have to bring our kids, and when I attend a lot of these events, I see families. So, and like I used to feel a little embarrassed of like I have to bring my kids, but they'll tell me it's okay. We've always traveled together, we moved together. So that saying that, you answered the next question in a lot of ways. There are only a handful of Indigenous presenters, and I really didn't know I was one until I started to attend more. I started a festival in 2018, and then my friend Cynthia Licker Sage saw that, and then she invited me to. She started to invite me to places, and then she invited me to Redu, and I just said yes. I learned to say I learned that saying no was not an option early in those years. And I didn't even realize I was going to Norway when I told her yes. So she said, make sure you have a passport. Anyway, I did that. And then I had a good talk with her. And she said, there's only a handful of us. We need to, lay these foundations down for the next and leave ladders behind. So we appreciate all the work that has been done before us here. And, we look forward to a healthy future of a lot of Indigenous artists and presenters and producers and such. So that's saying, what advice would you give to the next generation of folks that are coming up? It's not always an easy place to plant seeds, but or watch things grow. But what advice would you give to artists who are looking for a more creative support system in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, don't take no for an answer is always, I think quintessential at this stage. And don't get caught in the trap of having to conform to non-Indigenous ways to do what you need to do. And it's so easy to get caught in that. We live in a colonial cycle, and our social platform it has us brainwashed to think in many ways, such as time. And even the beginning of this whole meeting was before I think we went live or went recorded, but we were talking about time. And time is not something that should be on a clock. Time is something that should be given to what needs to be given and talked about or felt or experienced. And so I would always tell folks, stay true to their heart, find the right guides to lead you through what you want to do. LodgePole, we've been very fortunate to have had three knowledge keepers as part of our leadership team. We have two that are right now on our Grand Council as part of the 6-member team. And I think it's important to ensure that you've got those voices, because they do ground us. They bring us back when we start to go down paths of too much colonial administration and organizational behavior conversations, and they remind us what's important as Indigenous creatives, and that's critical. And just keep plugging away, keep making connections. The reality as to this conversation, there are few of us. There are only a handful of us, really. And so it is important to get to know everybody. And know that you're not always going to mesh with everyone and that everyone does have their own personality and their own agenda. But that's not a bad thing. It's just that you need to be flexible and stay true to that and make your way through not listening to no and being persistent with everyone, not just with treaty partners, but with Indigenous colleagues as well. Yeah.
Truly, I truly believe that. I heard a lot of no's growing up. I heard a lot of people, just brush off my ideas, but it's takes kind of a little bit of a stubbornness to make sure that you grow what you envision. Yeah, so I can appreciate that. That saying, we're gonna go off the administration part of this a little bit, and everybody that I've met going in the arts at least has practiced some craft. Have you, like, I play guitar, I still play music. I'm not a musician. It's a lot of hard work. I wish I could have went professional with it, but I just drifted off into different areas such as recording. But do you have a craft that you practiced growing up, whether it be visual arts or music or anything?
Yeah, I was a visual artist growing up, and my big dream was to actually create a magazine, a architectural style magazine. I was like 8. Um, and I was known as kind of the in-house mural and realist artist in my high school. I did I did a lot of murals. I won a lot of awards. I did, was always on the yearbook design committee and doing the lead designs for everything. And so I came out of high school and went to college for illustration, but I didn't have what it took. I was a small fish in a little pond and became very discouraged at that process. I also had very limited writing skills when I came out of high school. Um, I was fairly illiterate, but this has got to do more with the racism that happened back then in the schools where I grew up. Um, and so it took a while for me to kind of find my path, and that's where, as I described earlier, it became all over the place. And eventually, though, I found my niche and found my way. And always, it's interesting that even to this day, I'm still very much a visual learner, and I do a lot of lists, and I like to do a lot of different creative things. I still have my coloring book and I love my jigsaw puzzles and and I just have to have that visual stimulation within art. I thought about pursuing photography for a long time, um, and I've thought about different apps, aspects of interior design, but yeah, it our system and our society is so fixed on um, particularities of meeting a niche, and if you don't come from, at least from my experience, if you're not born into that world and have those associates, it's really hard to break in still. And I hate to say it, but we still do live in a society that is very exclusionary and very classist, unfortunately.
I agree. I grew up as an artist. It wasn't always easy. My oldest daughter, she's an artist as well. Her mother is a designer. I'm a musician, and I do this. And I bought her every instrument that she asked for. She doesn't always pick them up. She's a wonderful visual artist, and I had to warn her, you're going to be challenged, and you're just going to have to learn how to accept that. Not everybody's going to like your work, but art is meant to be challenged, and you're going to get some negative things along with the positive. So just be prepared in that sense. And yeah, she's going to the University of British Columbia, and she wants to stay in the arts, but she doesn't know exactly what avenue yet. Like I said, she does a lot of great things, but it's really hard to sort of plant that in a young artist's head. Try not to give up because art is meant to be challenged, and that's just one of the things we got to go through. So that's a. We'll go on to the next question. I'm sorry if you can hear my children; they're playing their games. It's prime time right now. But one of my biggest goals as a fellow arts administrator and festival presenter is to always leave doors open for allyships and partnerships. It's just the way that, like you said, society works right now. I get some flack sometimes for when I can't hire a certain Indigenous person that's in a certain field that we need. So you go with partners and allies, and that's where you learn things. But and it's just something that I have to deal with every year, but that I'm comfortable with. So um, there's a wide range of communities that we live with in Canada. And is this something important to you to think about developing your program? And if so, why are these partnerships important?
Yeah, great question, Jason. Like it or not, we live in a world that we are outnumbered now. There was a time when the Indigenous folks outnumbered the visitors, but certainly not now. And with that, it comes a reality check that, I mean, especially someone with my background, my ancestry is Haudenosaunee, and genealogy shows that if you go back even 7, 8 generations of Haudenosaunee folks, there's usually a white person in there somewhere. So the reality of us being, mixed for multiple generations is true. And so giving respect to those ancestors is also something I'm very cognizant of doing. Um, I come from an extremely strong, proud uh, female British line through my mom, and I would never deny that part of me and or that connection, regardless of the fact that they were English and part of the oppressive class who did um, take over a region in southern Ontario that displaced Indigenous peoples. That's a truth and that's a reality, and we all have to own that. At least that's my opinion. And so working with our treaty partners is quintessential. And there's no organization in my mind that would be entirely successful if it wasn't open to everyone on the landscape to enjoy the organizational benefits and or successes, and to help with the challenges. And not everybody knows everything. We all have our gifts, but we have to accept the fact that others have gifts too. And sometimes those gifts are exactly what we need when we need them. And so working collaboratively with a lot of our partners here, especially in the Kingston region, is very important to us. And we get a lot of amazing support through our treaty partners. SPARC in itself, the organization that you're representing is also an amazing treaty partner, and has been very supportive of us for a number of years. So without this type of engagement and opportunity, organizations like LodgePole would not find long-term success at all. It's also important in thinking about the reality of the partnerships, though. And for us, and especially again, Haudenosaunee, the two-row wampum is pretty much, our constitution, if you will, within the Great Law of Peace. And so this is one thing, at our dinners and at the gatherings that we do, the art of visiting. And And certainly the title for our gathering, The Art of Visiting, is intentional to return us to meeting in a non uh, uh, in a way that isn't transactional. We want to return to ways of meeting that are relational. And so coming up with the phrase, the art of visiting, is actually a coined phrase that our current feather carrier, our current chair of the Grand Council, Harmony Johnson Harder. It was a phrase that was coined between her father, Harold Johnson, and Sheila Rogers a number of years ago when they were doing a radio show. And it was something that they discussed and came up with to get people back to relational relationships and relational partnerships and moving forward in those types of collaborations. And so that's the one thing that's important about our gatherings is understanding that it is about that art of visiting, and also why it'll be very exciting to have Sheila come this year and talk about that origination of that title. But also our dinner, the dinner that we've created between an Indigenous chef and a treaty partner chef to create a fusion meal at every gathering that we do. We call that dinner the Kaspuenta dinner, and Kaspuenta is the Mohawk translation for the two-row wampum. And that is because at that dinner, we brought together Indigenous and non-Indigenous participants and leaders in our community, from the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte and the Tyendinaga Longhouse to our local city of Kingston councillors and mayor, our Frontenac County Council and committee members. And it's important that we have all these relations that come together and recognize each other, and honor each other in a way that is very equal and respectful in moving forward. It's the only way we're all going to move forward.
I agree. One of the bigger focuses that the director of operations in my community has sort of, passed on as far as like information goes for programming is to make sure that, we open up opportunities that see not only our community going out into the world, especially young people, or bringing folks in just so we could trade those knowledges and stories, and it really helps for a young person. Like I'll say this was what happened to me as a young person moving out to high school in the city. There was some culture shock, so I was not comfortable. I came home for about 2 weeks, and a lot of people around the community said, you're going to regret it. So just keep trying, and so I think that's important. And of course, I agree with you. It's just the way the world works. We need to have allies. I mean, we've had allies 1,000 years ago, and we didn't have things in our territories that we needed to find partners for. So it's just our way, and it's something that I look forward to doing. A lot more when I present programming. So that thing we're winding down to our last questions here, and for your gathering, I must say I did have such a great time. I've never been to the area. From coming from an island myself, going to another island, and I was able to take my kids down there, and just it's such a beautiful area, and the vibe of the living on an island was there. So I felt very comfortable. Tell us how we might be able to attend your next gathering and some of the things that we can expect to enjoy.
Sure. Yeah, so our Art of Visiting second annual gathering has been set for October 6th through 9th, 2025. It will again be based at Wolf Island Hotel. We are right now in the process of creating our programming objectives and how we're going to coordinate the different guests and performers. As I said, we've already secured Sheila Rogers and explained a little bit why that will be a very exciting opportunity. And we always try and support Indigenous authors as well. And especially since our relationship with the Kingston Writers Fest has been very strong over the last couple of years, we're looking to bring Richard Van Camp to support us, and I think invite the Kingston Writers Fest community to now kind of share in our realm of that opportunity to listen to Richard and to attend a workshop as well. He has a couple films that he's also now just put out too. So I think we're going to have a bit of a film night for him as well. But it's an opportunity to see who else we can lure into the area. There's last night at the Junos there was so much really great Indigenous music, and there's so many amazing Indigenous musicians performers. So it's certainly an exciting time. We have also reached back out to Christine Friday and Philip Geller, who's now on our Grand Council, to possibly. They hit it off last year at our gathering tremendously. That they are talking about doing some form of collaborative residency now. That's come out of our gathering, and so we're looking to maybe pre-event and do some things there as well. Yeah, so there's lots of things. Follow our website because we have a few other things that are right now percolating. That's ongoing in regards to supporting Sounding Thunder. Or Thunder Sounding Thunder. It's a libretto that colleague and friend Armand Garnett Rufo helped create on that's been traveling across Canada, and we're just right now in talks to maybe help produce it at the National War Museum for Remembrance Day this year. So there's lots of things percolating for us this year. It's a very exciting time. And who knows? We might just show up on any of your doorsteps and just say, "Hey, can we engage with your community and have some good food and sharing some good conversations while we support Indigenous art and artists."
That's amazing. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping I could attend again, and I'll make sure that I, save the dates. Yeah. So that's saying. Thank you, Terri-Lynn, for joining us tonight. It's good to see you again, and I can't wait till we meet up in person again. And this has been SPARC's peer-to-peer chats. And just a little plug out, we are actually having our symposium, save the date for May 21st to the 24th, 2026 in Sudbury, Ontario, which is very close to me. So I'm excited. Sudbury and Manitoulin are sort of neighboring districts, and we do a lot of work together. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this session tonight, everybody. And of course, this has been recorded and will be shared on all of our socials. And have you any other closing thoughts, or would you? I know you probably got some grant writing to do. It's deadline day tomorrow. I know I can attest. I know exactly how that is. But with that, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been a pleasure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. Go ahead, Jason, so much. But yeah, it's an opportunity. It's always an amazing opportunity to work with you and Rachel, and to share in what we're doing and how we're doing it, because it's almost like the moccasin highway of collaboration. In the sense that those of us on the ground are really getting the word out and changing the landscape for smaller rural remote organizations, arts organizations, to find their footing and keep going after some hard times of COVID, and who knows what's on the horizon right now with what's happening south of the border, and then especially for Indigenous arts organizations. We have to exist in a way that shouldn't have us equated to the other arts system and arts organizations, because we've struggled so long that finding our footing is harder, and that the more support that folks can give us towards understanding action in reconciliation is important across all sectors, but especially within the arts right now. Yeah, so thank you both so much.
All right, I totally agree, and Thank you for this, and we will let you get back to work. You have some very important things to do, and it sounds like an exciting year coming up. So, with that, good night, everybody, and we will catch you at the next one.